Somewhere off the coast of the Persian Gulf, a 531-foot superyacht named Dubai sits at anchor. A floating palace with its own helipad, a mosaic-tiled swimming pool, a disco, and a glass staircase lit from within. It cost an estimated $400 million to build. It is not the family's primary residence. It is not even their primary yacht. A few miles inland, a private stable houses more than 80 thoroughbred racehorses, part of a global breeding operation called Godolphin that owns horses on 5 continents and has won over 6,000 races. The annual operating cost is rumored to exceed the GDP of small island nations. And above it all, in the world's tallest building, the family's holding companies quietly own the land beneath skyscrapers, the airline that flies you in, the airport that welcomes you, the port that imports your goods, and the bank that holds your money. Most people think Dubai is a city. They are looking at the surface. Beneath Dubai is a family, and beneath that family lies one of the most concentrated fortunes in human history. A dynasty that doesn't just live in a country. They are the country. In the next few minutes, we are tracking the rise of a bloodline that turned a fishing village of pearl divers into a $700 billion city-state, and pocketed an estimated $22 billion personal fortune along the way, with the real number whispered to be many times higher. We are going to uncover the secret asset structures, the $500 million palaces, the global racehorse empire, the geopolitical chess moves, and the silent ownership of nearly everything you touch when you set foot in the United Arab Emirates. Wait until you hear what they actually own. By the end of this video, you will understand why the line between a family fortune and a sovereign treasury can completely disappear. Rewind to the year 1833. There is no Dubai skyline, no Burj Khalifa, no Palm Jumeirah. There is a sun-bleached creek on the edge of the Arabian desert, a few hundred mud brick homes, and a tribe of about 800 people known as the Bani Yas. That year, a faction of the tribe, led by a man named Maktoum bin Buti al-Maktoum, broke away from the larger settlement of Abu Dhabi and migrated up the coast. They settled along a natural saltwater inlet known as Khor Dubai, Dubai Creek. There were no roads, no infrastructure, just water, sand, and opportunity. What Maktoum bin Buti understood, in a way few of his contemporaries did, was the value of location. The creek was a natural harbor. The coastline sat at the crossroads between India, Persia, East Africa, and the Arabian interior. Whoever controlled the creek controlled the trade. So he did exactly that. He installed himself as the ruler, and he made the most consequential decision in the family's 200-year history. He opened the port to everyone. No tariffs, no interrogations, no religious tests. Persian merchants fleeing taxes back home. Indian traders looking for a base. Pearl divers and dhow captains and gold smugglers, all welcomed. While neighboring sheikhs squeezed every visitor for revenue, the Al Maktoums got rich on volume. Dubai became the Gulf's free port a full century before the phrase free trade zone existed. The family didn't tax the merchants. They simply owned the ground the merchants stood on, the water their boats sailed in, and the customs houses that processed their goods. It was a quiet, brilliant move, and it set the template for everything that came after. The pearls would eventually run out. The British would come and go. Oil would be discovered and would change everything. But the founding logic, own the choke point, welcome the world, take a small slice of every transaction, would never change. It would only get bigger. Fast forward to 1958. The man who steps into power is Sheikh Rashid bin Saeed Al Maktoum, and he is about to do something almost nobody expected. He looks at his neighbor Abu Dhabi, sitting on a sea of oil, and he looks at his own emirate with comparatively modest reserves, and he makes a calculation that defines modern Dubai. He bets that oil is the past. Trade, tourism, and finance will be the future. In 1959, with the city's treasury nearly empty, Sheikh Rashid borrows $28 million from Kuwait, an enormous sum at the time, to dredge Dubai Creek so that larger ships can enter. Critics call it madness. Within a decade, Dubai's port traffic explodes. In 1966, oil is finally found offshore. Most rulers would have spent the windfall on palaces and personal indulgence. Sheikh Rashid spends it on infrastructure. He builds Port Rashid, then the largest man-made harbor on Earth. He builds Dubai's first international airport. He builds the Jebel Ali port, at the time, the largest man-made harbor in the world, visible from space. Each project is owned, directly or indirectly, through entities controlled by the ruling family. Then, in 1985, Sheikh Rashid's sons launch what may be the single greatest wealth-generating decision in modern Arab history. With just $10 million in seed capital and 2 leased aircraft, they create Emirates Airline. Today, Emirates flies to over 140 destinations, operates the world's largest fleet of Airbus A380s, and generates annual revenues exceeding $33 billion. It is wholly owned by the Investment Corporation of Dubai, the family's sovereign holding vehicle. Then comes Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the current ruler, who takes power in 2006 and accelerates everything. Under his reign, Dubai builds the Burj Khalifa, the Palm Jumeirah, the Dubai Mall, and DP World, a global ports operator that today controls terminals in 78 marine and inland terminals across 40 countries. Each of these crown jewels sits inside the family's holding architecture. Each one compounds. Each one feeds the next. By 2020, the family is no longer just wealthy. They are infrastructure. They are sovereignty. They are the operating system of an entire emirate, and almost nobody outside the Gulf truly understands the scale. Try to draw a line around what the Al Maktoum family controls today, and you will find that the line keeps expanding. At the center sits the Investment Corporation of Dubai, the sovereign wealth arm with estimated assets exceeding $320 billion. Through it, the family controls Emirates Group, dnata, one of the world's largest air services companies. Emirates NBD, the largest bank in Dubai with over $240 billion in assets. The Emirates Global Aluminium Smelting Giant, and stakes in everything from telecoms to retail to real estate. Then there is Dubai Holding, a separate vehicle personally chaired by Sheikh Mohammed, with assets estimated at over $35 billion. It owns the Jumeirah Group, yes, the company behind the sail-shaped Burj Al Arab Hotel, along with massive land banks, media properties, and tech investments. Layer on DP World, with annual revenues of around $20 billion, operating ports that handle roughly 10% of all global container traffic. When you order something from overseas, there is a meaningful statistical chance that the box passed through a terminal owned by this family. Then there is Meras, MAR Properties, the developer of the Burj Khalifa with a market value north of $10 billion, and dozens of holding entities whose ownership trails dissolve into trusts, foundations, and royal accounts. To put the personal wealth in perspective, Sheikh Mohammed's officially declared net worth hovers around $22 billion, making him one of the wealthiest royals on earth. But that figure is widely considered laughably conservative. When you account for the family's effective control of state assets, the airline, the airport, the ports, the land, analysts privately estimate the total dynastic wealth at well over $300 billion, with some estimates pushing toward $500 billion. For comparison, that is larger than the GDP of Finland, larger than the GDP of Portugal, larger than the entire economy of Egypt, a country of 110 million people. This is not a family with a fortune. This is a family that is a fortune, woven into the bones of a city, a country, and an entire region's economic architecture. And we haven't even talked about how they live. Step inside Zabeel Palace, Sheikh Mohammed's primary residence in Dubai. The compound stretches across hundreds of acres in the heart of the city, with manicured gardens, private mosques, fleets of Mercedes Maybachs and Rolls Royces, and a personal stable for Arabian horses that would make a European monarchy blush. The palace is just one of many. The family owns estates across the United Arab Emirates, a sprawling country compound in Newmarket, England, the spiritual home of horse racing, and Dalham Hall Stud, a 2,500-acre operation that breeds some of the most expensive racehorses on Earth. They own properties in central London, including blocks of Mayfair, and rural Scottish estates spanning tens of thousands of acres of Highland hunting land. Then, there is the Air Fleet. The Dubai Royal Air Wing operates a personal squadron that includes a custom Boeing 747-400, multiple Boeing 777s, and Airbus A319 corporate jets, each one outfitted with private bedrooms, conference rooms, and gold-trimmed interiors that cost tens of millions to install. On the water sits the superyacht Dubai, all 531 feet of her, plus a fleet of smaller support vessels. Then comes the obsession that defines the family more than almost anything else: horses. Through the Godolphin racing operation, the family owns and races thousands of thoroughbreds across the UK, US, Australia, France, and Japan. The annual budget for the racing operation alone is estimated at over $100 million. Their children are educated at Sandhurst, at British boarding schools, at the elite military academies of Europe. Their daughters and sons appear at the Royal Ascot, the Met Gala-adjacent global circuit, the World Economic Forum. While the average resident of Dubai earns roughly $45,000 a year, the family casually commissions diamond-encrusted Falcons and gold-plated jet ski fleets for weekends in the desert. This is not lifestyle. This is theater on a national scale. But the visible wealth, the yachts, the palaces, the horses, is the part you are allowed to see. What lies beneath is a far more interesting story. The Al Maktoum family does not simply rule Dubai. They are the executive, legislative, and commercial authority rolled into one bloodline. There is no parliament that can overrule them. There is no opposition party. The Prime Minister of the entire United Arab Emirates is Sheikh Mohammed himself. And the role is, by constitutional design, hereditary within the family. This concentration of power has produced extraordinary outcomes. Dubai's transformation in 30 years has no peer in modern history. But it has also produced shadows that international media occasionally illuminates and then forgets. There are the well-documented diplomatic incidents involving members of the family, court rulings in the United Kingdom regarding the welfare of certain royal children, allegations that have made global headlines, and judicial findings that have at times been deeply uncomfortable for the family abroad. There is the question of labor, the skyscrapers, the islands, the malls, all built by an estimated 8 million migrant workers, many under conditions that human rights organizations have repeatedly criticized. There is the geopolitical web. The family maintains deep ties with Washington, London, Beijing, and Moscow simultaneously, a balancing act few states can perform. Dubai has become a critical financial node for global capital flows, including, according to numerous investigations, flows that other jurisdictions would not welcome. And then there is the opacity. The true ownership structure of Dubai's largest assets is buried under layers of trusts, royal decrees, and holding companies registered in jurisdictions with limited disclosure requirements. Even seasoned analysts admit they are guessing at the bottom line. The family's power is not loud. It does not need to be. When you control the airline, the airport, the port, the bank, the land, the courts, and the Constitution. You do not need to raise your voice. You simply decide. The future of this dynasty is already being staged. Sheikh Mohammed has named his son Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed Al Maktoum, known publicly as Fazza, as Crown Prince of Dubai. Hamdan, with his social media presence, his poetry, his skydiving videos, and his polished public image, represents a deliberate generational pivot. He is being positioned as the modern face of an ancient apparatus. Behind the scenes, however, the family is doing what every great dynasty does in its mature phase: consolidating, diversifying, and protecting. Wealth is being moved into structures designed to outlive individuals. Trusts in jurisdictions like Jersey and the Cayman Islands, sovereign-linked funds with ironclad governance, and global real estate portfolios that produce yield regardless of which way oil prices move. There is also a clear cultural pivot towards soft power. The family pours hundreds of millions into branding Dubai as a global hub. Expo 2020, COP28, the Museum of the Future, the push to dominate AI and crypto regulation in the region. The next 50 years of the dynasty will be measured not just in dollars, but in influence. If the trajectory holds, the Al Maktoum family will not just remain among the wealthiest families on Earth. They may, by mid-century, sit at the very top, quietly outlasting the Waltons, the Mars family, the European royals, and perhaps even the great American tech fortunes. Because here is the thing about a dynasty built on owning a choke point of global trade. The choke point doesn't move. The world keeps coming through the door, and the family keeps owning the door. Every great dynasty in history found something the world needed and stationed itself between the world and that thing. The Medicis found banking. The Rockefellers found oil. The Astors found land. The Al Maktoums found the crossroads of the planet and built a city on top of it. The pearls are gone. The oil will eventually fade, but the location remains. The trust remains. The family remains. So here's the question worth sitting with. When a family owns a country's airline, its airport, its port, its bank, and the very ground beneath your feet, is that a fortune? Or is that something else entirely? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this kind of deep dive into the world's most powerful dynasties is what you came here for, hit that subscribe button. There are far more empires we still need to take apart. Because next, we are going somewhere even darker. A family that for nearly a century quietly set the price of every diamond on Earth and used a single advertising slogan to manufacture a global obsession from thin air. You are not going to want to miss it.